Hey leader, and welcome to episode number 335 of the L3 Leadership Podcast, where we are obsessed with helping you grow to your maximum potential and to maximize the impact of your leadership. My name is Doug Smith, and I am your host, and today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Baritone Advisors. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that you'll enjoy our content and become a subscriber. Know that you can also watch all of our episodes over on our YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed there as well. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while and it's made an impact on your life, it would mean the world to me if you'd leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever app you listen to podcasts through. That really does help us to grow our audience and reach more leaders, which is our whole mission here at L3 Leadership. So thank you in advance for that. Well, in today's episode, you'll hear my conversation with Alex Pursglove. Alex is a longtime friend, and I've been able to watch her journey, and to see how much she's grown from where she started to where she is now has been absolutely incredible. And I think our conversation is going to add massive value to your life. And if you're unfamiliar with Alex, let me tell you a little bit about her journey. From embracing personal growth and shifting limiting beliefs, Alex Pursglove transformed from a people-pleasing, self-criticizing, and struggling solopreneur into an unapologetic woman running a multi-six-figure coaching business. Once she learned the art of creating and quantum leaping, she 10x'd her business in under 2 years while strengthening her faith, confidence, and personal fulfillment. Alex is dedicated to helping other women create wild success in life and business through releasing shame and fear that slows them down, while cultivating full conviction in their vision and their value. Her clients experience significant shifts in how they see themselves as they accelerate their revenue and results with more ease. Deeply committed to practicing what she preaches, Alex has studied with multiple world-class mentors, including David Neagle, one of the architects of the personal development industry, to up-level every area of her life, family, and business. She and her husband, Adam, value transformative experiences in travel, practicing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and building a purposeful life together with their daughter, Stella Love. And in our conversation, you're going to hear about what Alex learned from investing $100,000 in a coach. That's right, she invested $100,000 in coaching one year and it changed her life. You're going to love that. We're going to talk about why coaching is so important and why you need a coach in your life and what a coach can do for you. You're going to learn about what she's learned through money now that she's making multi-six figures. And of course, we take her through a few lightning round questions as well. So you're going to love this interview, but before we dive in, just a few announcements. This episode of the L3 Leadership Podcast is sponsored by Baritone Advisors. The financial advisors at Baritone Advisors help educate and empower clients to make informed financial decisions. You can find out how Baritone Advisors can help you develop a customized financial plan for your financial future by visiting their website at baritoneadvisors.com. That's BERATUNG advisors.com. Securities and investment products and services offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Baritone Advisors, LPL Financial, and L3 Leadership are separate entities. I also want to thank our sponsor, Henny Jewelers. They're a jeweler owned by my friend and mentor, John Henny. And my wife, Laura, and I got our engagement and wedding rings at Henny Jewelers and had a wonderful experience. But not only do they have great jewelry, but they also invest in people. In fact, for every couple that comes into their store engaged, they give them a book to prepare for marriage, and we just love that. So if you're in need of a good jeweler, check out hennyjewelers.com. And with all that being said, let's dive right in. Here's my conversation with Alex Pursglove. Well, hey, everyone. In today's conversation, you're going to hear my friend, Alex Pursglove, who I've known for a very long time, and I'm so excited for you to get to know her. And so, Alex,
yeah, thanks, Doug. Super excited to have this conversation with you today.
Yeah, and so I want to dive right in. So I feel like I've been journeying alongside you or watching you for probably the last 10 years. I don't know how long it's been, but when I met you, you were an executive assistant. Yeah. So when I met you, you were an executive assistant and at a nonprofit organization. And I remember you starting to share these dreams of you could see yourself being an entrepreneur and getting into coaching and event planning. And then you actually took the dive and you've become very, very successful since. And so can you just give people kind of an 80,000 foot view of that journey in your life?
It always makes me smile remembering sitting at Starbucks with you, having these conversations. And it did feel like such a future dream at that time. So I had these desires, I had these ideas, and I would dream a lot about wanting to be an entrepreneur. I really fell in love with the personal growth world and coaching. So I knew that I loved helping people develop and grow. And I was getting little snippets of that through my job as I had other team members I oversaw. So it's like I had this desire that I wanted to really keep leaning into. And I allowed myself to do that. I continued learning more. I started my business on the side and was growing it while being full-time. And then I reached this point where I just knew that I felt out of alignment, because what I felt really called to do was to be all in for my coaching. I knew that's what fired me up the most. It's what I got the most excited about. And it was also where I felt the greatest amount of discomfort and the most second guessing and the most fear. And so back then, I didn't fully see it as clearly as I do now, but all that second guessing made me go back and forth and, doubt the vision. So it took me a few years before I was ready to say, okay, I'm going to make this jump and I'm going to go all in. But it was actually hearing a now mentor of mine make a statement at an event that if you're only 95% in, you're out. And you and I have talked about that before. And it was such an activating comment when I heard it, because it made me stop and look at, okay, do I really want to be all in for this? And I never really reached a point of like, okay, the circumstances finally have all lined up to just be perfect to make this jump. I believe so often that that doesn't really happen. When we decide to go all in for our vision, we have to first put our stake in the ground and say, okay, I'm going to go all in for this. I'm ready. I'm ready to make this my thing. And so I made the leap, and it was definitely a leap of faith. And my husband and I had actually just moved back to Pittsburgh. We had just bought a house. My husband was starting a new job that was 100% commission as a salesman. And so it was probably actually at the least logical time from looking from the outside in, but it was when I decided I just need to do this.
So you made the decision to go all in, which I absolutely love. That is a decision that very few people actually do. I think so many people have a dream in their heart or have these desires, and like you, feel like they're not in alignment with what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not willing to take that courageous step and go all in. When you actually did take that step of faith, we'll talk more about this later, but you basically went from a side hustle to going all in to now you're earning 5 figures a month, which is pretty incredible. And again, we'll get into that. Was it automatically for you up and to the right? Was there a period where it was just like, hey, I don't know if this was the right decision? What did the first 6 to 12 months?
It definitely was not just everything fell into complete place right off the bat. It was a journey. And once I made the decision, once I made the leap, I definitely got confirmation once I decided that, yes, this is where I need to be going. So that I had some peace about, and knowing, like, I felt relief, like, yes, this is the path. But then as I was, building up the business, first time being a full-time entrepreneur, there were plenty of challenges. And I learned a lot about who's really an aligned client, what I really want to be doing, what fits with me, what kind of services I want to offer, what were my zone of genius areas? Like, what was I really going to be all about as a coach? So I think what I've learned in this experience is that so often we end up trying to figure everything out before we take the step. And for me, in the first, 6 to 12 months, it was trying things out, seeing what fit, what didn't, and learning through doing started accelerating my results more quickly instead of trying to get it all figured out and make sure I don't make any mistakes, on the front side of it. And instead allowing myself to take action and then allowing myself to learn and pivot and adjust based on my experiences. So is this answering your question about what the first 6 to 12 months was like? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think from doing all of that, in my first year, I worked a lot and I took on a lot of clients and I said yes to a lot of opportunities. And then from that, I realized by the end of my first year, I was heading quickly to burnout. I was tired and I was working, with a lot of clients that weren't actually in alignment with me, or it wasn't in greatest alignment for what I really wanted to be doing. You mentioned the event planning. In my first year as a full-time entrepreneur, I was doing events and I liked events and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my greatest passion. It wasn't what I was really called to do, because coaching was deep down what I actually really wanted to be all in for. So it actually took that first year of being a full-time entrepreneur to realize, okay, now I'm ready to go all in for the coaching side and for what's in greatest alignment with me.
That's amazing. And so first year you were learning by doing, just doing everything you can, learning on your own, learning from your own experience. You made the jump. But what I love is, and again, you weren't public about this on the front end, but since you become public, you actually, and I don't know how close it was in the time frame we're talking about, but you not only jumped on your own and had the courage to do that, but then a year later, you also had the courage to actually make an enormous investment in yourself. You actually, did what you tell other people to do, and you got your own coach. And I believe you invested $100,000 in a coach. Like, that's just one person coaching you. Can you talk about that investment? Why did you make that? Was it hard? And what was the
happy to tell this story now. As you said, I wasn't really public about it until I felt really confident that it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, which now I can say with complete confidence. So I'm happy to share it. And the funny thing about this, Doug, is I actually knew my coach for many years before I started working with her. And I knew that she invested $100,000 in her first coach. And when I first heard that, my reaction was, that's ridiculous. Like, who does that? That's so much money to spend in working with one person. Like, how do you even make that happen? And so it makes me laugh today to now say, oh yeah, I totally get, why someone would do that. And for me, one, there was looking at it from a logical ROI standpoint, that if working with this coach could help me grow my business and create a multi-six-figure business, from working with her for a year, then if you look at it that way, oh, okay, investing $100,000 to then create a multi-six-figure business that you can run year after year after year after year, is that a sensible ROI? Yeah. From the more spiritual standpoint for me, when I had this opportunity to work with her, I knew that what I actually was so drawn to about her was that she was unapologetic in who she really was. She had complete faith in herself and her vision. And that's what I was really attracted to. And I knew that I wanted the results in business, but what I also really wanted was to remove all the second guessing, all the self-doubt, and not trusting myself. I wanted to step into being that really empowered, confident leader that I believed inside that I was, but I didn't know how to express it or how to bring her out. So I made this decision to work with her, even though I had a ton of fear about it. I mean, my stomach was in knots the night I signed this contract. I was freaking out because I didn't have this money. I want to be clear. I didn't have $100,000 sitting in my bank account. I put the first few months on a credit card to pay for it. And so I was worried. What if this is the wrong thing to do? What if it doesn't work out? But I decided in that moment to put a pin in that fear and instead say, what do I really want? Do I want this? Do I feel drawn to it? Is it inspiring me? And it was. I was so excited about working with her. So I decided to follow what I wanted instead of doubting myself.
And talk about the outcome of that. So you get a year's worth of coaching. How did that impact? What was maybe one or two of the greatest things that you drew from that?
So the results that I really desired, the becoming more unapologetic, removing the self-doubt, the second guessing, and creating more of that trust, that's what I really set my intention on. And so I started experiencing, just leaps and bounds in transforming in my self-confidence, transforming in my knowledge, and I'll say trust in myself as a coach. So as I was growing so much in confidence, then in turn, my clients are benefiting from it because now I feel so much more confident in how I'm guiding them. I can guide them from my experience and can relate to their struggles. And so I can help them move through what they're struggling with because I've done it now for myself. And so right away, the change in my confidence, my clarity, my conviction in my vision and my value just truthfully skyrocketed within a couple months. And when I started shifting in my way of being, my business came along with me. So, within, I think 2 or 3 months, I took my business from an average of $3,300 a month to my first $16K month. And then my next month was $23K. So I'm experiencing these big leaps forward in my revenue, which to me was just reflective of the changes I was making in who I was being. And so much of it came down to trusting myself and trusting in my vision and to letting go of all the people pleasing and the apologizing, the mask wearing, the self-sacrificing that I had been doing that had really been blocking me from creating the results I wanted.
Speak to that specifically. I'm sure everyone on the planet deals with people pleasing, but that holds a lot of people back. Was there like a statement that helped? Was there anything that specifically clicked around that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was helpful.
It was when I really shifted my perspective on people pleasing and my definition of it. So I had always told myself that I people pleased because I wanted to be kind to other people, because I wanted to take care of other people and not hurt other people's feelings. And what I came to see is that people pleasing is actually being dishonest with someone to avoid their potential reaction to you. Wow. And so it's not actually kind. Yeah, it actually comes from your ego because you're trying to protect yourself. You're not really thinking about what's in highest service to this person and to you. So, you're just trying to avoid the bad reaction. And so it's actually a way to try to protect yourself and to get approval. It's not really in service. And so when I came to see that, and actually for a while, I started replacing the words people pleasing with lying and saying, well, I'm going to lie to this person so that I don't hurt their feelings. Or I'm going to lie to this person so that, they're not upset with me for saying no or setting a boundary. And making that shift in my mind really helped me move out of the people pleasing, because I realized, oh, I don't want to seek the approval of other people. I want to be self-approved. And for me, I like to find my approval between me and God alone.
Wow. That is so good. And as I'm listening to you, talk about the true ROI, I think a lot of times when people think about coaching, or even just hearing, wow, Alex makes 5 figures, I wish I could. Give me the 10 business tactics that I need to do. What do I need to do to sell? And I'm sure there's skill involved with that, but it sounds like it was more about becoming the person that could actually do that internally. That was the real ROI, more than just, hey, here's how you sell or here's how you coach. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
And this is something I talk about all the time in my coaching and the classes I lead, that if you want to make a quantum leap forward in your results, then you first have to become the person on the inside who would create those results in order to create them. And so becoming that person on the inside means shifting how you see yourself and how you value yourself and your vision. So this is why in all the work I do, we always focus on your way of being and how you're thinking, how you're showing up, how you're treating yourself, how you're valuing yourself and your vision, because that's the essential piece to creating different results. That's how you produce different external results. It's not just about trying to do more of the same things, or yes, strategy matters. And I'll talk about that in a moment. And I always say strategy is about 15 to 20% of it. And then how you're showing up and how you're thinking is the other 80 to 85%, because that's what has the greatest impact on your results. So to give you a quick example, and then to address your question about like, what can people do, to accelerate their results. For me, one of the big shifts I made was how I viewed myself as a salesperson. And you'll actually find this really funny, Doug, because I specifically remember a conversation with my coach where I said to her, I was like, I just don't see myself as a salesperson. I'm not like, when I think of a salesperson, I think of like my friend Doug Smith. And I was like, that's who I see as like, he's really charming and he gets along with people and, and he's great at, now I know you're, working for a nonprofit, but, that you're still presenting the ministry, and fundraising is a version of sales. And so anyway, I thought of you and I was like, I'm not like that. I don't know that I could ever be a salesperson. And yet I'm an entrepreneur, and every entrepreneur is a salesperson. So I knew I had to shift my mindset around that, and I had to start seeing myself as a salesperson. So we looked at how I was defining sales and recognizing that that I was thinking sales was having to prove your value, having to like put on a pitch and a presentation and convince people that they should work with you. And when I shifted it and redefined it, I have now come to embrace what I call sales and service, which is that sales is an honest and open exploration to determine if it's a right fit for you to work together. And so sales is giving someone an experience of you so they can make a clear decision on if they're a yes or a no. There should actually be no convincing in sales. It's about helping someone get really clear about what they want and then giving someone an experience of you. So I also started shifting and seeing that my power in sales is bringing my coaching, bringing how I guide, how I teach to my interactions with people and saw it as building relationships. And so, through all of that experience and over the years, I've now come to see myself as a great salesperson, and I love sales. And if you'd asked me that a few years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. But now I'm like, yeah, I absolutely love sales. I love teaching sales, and I'm on the pathway to becoming a master of sales. And that absolutely shifted my results in sales. Yeah.
Wow. And again, this all goes back to you investing in yourself and who you are more than anything else, which I love. And we were talking before, we started the conversation recording, that not only did you invest that 100K in yourself that initial year, but you've continued to do that year after year after that. Can you talk to people? So I'm sure people are listening to this thinking the exact same thing you thought when you initially pitched us, like 100K, what? And there's no way I'm putting on a credit card. Alex, you're crazy. What would you tell someone about investing in themselves? You're a coach. And you don't have to convince us. Don't sell us. Just do your thing.
So I would say the reason my perspective has shifted on this so much is because now that I've experienced it, I also realized that when I made this investment in myself, I was sending the message to myself that my dream and who I am being matters. And it's valuable and it's a high priority. And so how I showed up in that experience, with so much skin in the game, you better believe I showed up to every call. I was taking notes. I was making and implementing the changes that we talked about because I had so much on the line. So for me, it was part of the investment was how it impacted how I valued it, right? So making that huge investment really created me just being all in for the experience. And so I truthfully today look back and I can't believe how much I have changed and how much I've grown and evolved, and not just in who I am as a businesswoman, but my faith is, just so much deeper than it ever was before. My marriage with my husband is, we've grown leaps and bounds in the last few years. We have such deeper intimacy and connection now. So it was about my business, and that's been a huge, celebration. But I would tell people who are thinking about things like this and how you're prioritizing or investing in your vision, your dreams, and your investment can be, time, energy, money, but how you overcome your challenges and how you move through them in order to create more of what you want comes down to how you're valuing yourself and your vision. If you're really valuing you and your vision, you will approach your challenges differently and you'll overcome them with more ease. You'll overcome them more quickly. And that's how you're going to create greater results in a much more potent way. And so how you invest in yourself ties into that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to start to shift into, so you invested in coaching for yourself. Let's just talk about coaching. And I just want to hear, some of the things that you've learned from being a coach, but not only should people invest in themselves, but why should people invest specifically in coaching? I think a lot of times when people think, oh, well, I'm not the CEO of a massive company, I don't need coaching. How can people benefit, and why should people invest?
First of all, I'll say that there's so many different kinds of coaches, right? And there's leadership coaches, professional development, career coaching, health coaching, mindset coaching, self-love coaching, nutrition coaching, all those different things, business coaching. And so I've had this conversation with multiple coaches before that while there's different kinds of coaching that address different tactics and strategies, and yes, that's always part of it. And so if you're looking to overcome a challenge in your life that aligns with one of those areas, why not ask for help from someone who's done it, who has had the experience? I'm a big believer in allowing yourself to be supported. And I think it's Tony Robbins his quote, success leaves clues. You don't have to do it all on your own. You're worthy of getting support. You're worthy of, having help around you to help elevate you and lift you up so you can step into your vision and overcome your challenges. So if you're having a struggle somewhere, you're feeling a challenge or stuck in something, or you just want to amplify and, add fuel to the fire of what you're doing, then why not ask for help and support? And circling back to what I was going to say a moment ago, that I've talked with other coaches about how even though we all have these different areas of expertise, all coaching also ultimately comes down to helping people develop more trust in themselves, to take care of themselves, to increase their knowledge. So it's all about self-betterment. And whenever you invest in yourself, that also means you then have the ability to impact other people on a greater scale. So I think sometimes, and this was something I struggled with, was feeling like it's selfish or it's all about me if I invest in myself. I mean, especially when I made the huge investment I did, of course, those questions came up of like, is this really selfish to spend my money on myself? But now that I've seen the impact of it, I realize you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't help other people if you're not filled up. And so when you invest in yourself, you better believe that has a ripple effect, throughout the pond. Right.
Yeah. So you've coached people, and I think so many people, the reason they even think about getting a coach is they felt like they're being held back in their life, because really coaches help people go further faster, I think. And so what are some common things that you see hold people back, whether that's someone who wants to lose 10 pounds, someone that wants to start a coaching company, or someone that's leading at an executive level of a huge Fortune 500 company? What holds people back from their potential?
So just like I said before about the strategy versus how you're being and showing up, I'd say probably 15 to 20% of it is knowledge, right? Needing to gain knowledge, expertise, learning. And then I'd say that the other 80% of it comes down to fear and self-doubt. So that was something that became so apparent to me in the work I did on myself, where there were times I remember I'd think, okay, no, I just truly don't know what to do. Like, I'm just confused. I don't have a clear path. And anytime I was confused or stuck, we could trace it back to a fear that was keeping me there. And so fear is a spectrum, and fear doesn't always just mean sitting there feeling afraid. Fear means confusion, lack of clarity, doubt, worry, anxiety. All of that falls on the fear spectrum. So that's one of the greatest things that comes up to block us from overcoming our challenges, because fear is often activated when we go into the unknown, and the unknown is our discomfort zone.
So I think one reason people fear so much is they fear failure, right? And I know there was a question, along these lines that made a big impact that I would love for you to talk about. Is just the question of, what if I get it wrong, right? So you invested $100,000. What if you didn't implement anything and didn't become anyone near or what if you launched your business from being an executive assistant and it just failed completely and everyone thought you were, talk about that question. What if I get it wrong? Because I think that's at the root of so much.
Absolutely. And like I just said, how I could always trace my confusion back to a fear, that was almost always the fear, was what if I'm wrong? What if I get it wrong? What if I fail? And I came to switch my definition on failure. So I don't actually really believe in failure. I believe that people stop. So mistakes, setbacks, those things are going to happen. You will not do it perfectly. And I've been thinking about this a lot, even just recently, that the only way you can actually avoid mistakes is to not be in the arena, to not be going after what you want, to not be pursuing your dreams, or even being in leadership. So for me, I think reframing failure and recognizing that, oh, wait a minute, I have a right to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. And my mistakes are actually a great tool for me because they teach you so much. So instead of thinking about being so destination oriented and worrying like, what if I get it wrong? Or what if I fail? What if I don't do it right? When you go into that destination oriented thinking, you put yourself in a little box, right, of fear, doubt, and worry that's going to keep you stuck. So I invite shifting away from that into looking at, how can I grow and learn from this? How can I get the absolute most learning from every experience? And then accepting all of myself in the process. So again, accepting, okay, I'm going to make mistakes, and it's okay that I'm not perfect because I'm going for it. So instead, what can I learn from this? And something I say with a lot of my clients is we talk about leaning into trusting in this or something better. Trust that you're going to get the results you want when you give it your best shot, or something better is going to come. You're going to learn a lesson you needed to learn from it, or some other opportunity is going to arise that you didn't expect. And that's the process of really walking in faith, is leaning into the unknown and saying, I'm going to do this, knowing that nothing's guaranteed.
Wow. Well, Alex, and again, we've been friends for years. I mean, I've seen the growth in you, and I could not be more proud. It's been so fun to watch and just to hear you and everything that you've just shared was
Thanks,
incredible. I want to shift into the lightning round in a moment. Before I do, if someone's listening to this and saying, man, maybe it's time, or I'm interested in investing myself, maybe they really connected with something you said. Can you just share a little bit about, your services and ways people can connect with your coaching?
Thank you. So I'll say this. I love to connect with anyone who listens to these episodes, who wants to have a conversation or learn more about something I shared. So I would love and welcome any conversation around this. And if someone is interested in receiving support and really making quantum leaps forward in your business and learning how to become more confident, unapologetic, and really releasing the fear and self-doubt spirals, then I would love to talk about that as well. And you can connect with me on Instagram at Alex Pursglove, or you can go to our website, alexpursglove.com, which is in the middle of a rebuild, but you can find me through the website, and I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Hey, and you've mentioned several times of taking a quantum leap. Like, that just sounds amazing. Like, I just want to take one just to say I did it. What does that phrase mean to you when you say that?
The way I think of a quantum leap is making a explosive jump forward that's far beyond the next logical step. So instead of kind of just one step forward at a time or that slow build, it's making a leap forward in your results. And from my experience in having a few quantum leaps, it's the kind of leap where you look back and think, wow, I am experiencing something I never really thought was possible. Like, I didn't know that I could actually create these kind of results or have this shift in my experience. And that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah. And I would say you've made the quantum leap. I guess I have to ask this question. So and clearly, like, I know you and what you shared. You didn't make the quantum leap in your life to make money. Like, it was never about a dollar amount. It was about becoming and really helping other people, which I love. But financially, you've talked about you've made 5 figures in a month, et cetera. I'm assuming, I'm in the nonprofit space in Pittsburgh. I'm assuming you didn't make 5 figures a month being an executive assistant. What have you learned about money through that quantum leap? Both, spending money on yourself, but then also just earning that kind of money. Because I think a lot of times people don't have the motive of, I want to help people or, do whatever. It's like, oh man, if I could just make 5 figures a month, my life would just be so much better.
Yeah, sure. My beliefs about money have shifted greatly as I've become an entrepreneur, as I made this big investment in myself. And what I've come to see, one, is that money is a vehicle for change and for impact. So I had to move through my own blocks around wondering if it was selfish to make a lot of money, or feeling like if I'm going to make an impact for other people, I need to not care about the money. And so I've come to see that, they're tools that work together. Growing my business now to where it is today and being at multi-6 figures and continuing to grow, now I'm able to reach more people. I'm able to employ people. I'm able to, make an impact in multiple ways. So one, I shifted into embracing that money is a vehicle for impact, and also recognizing that receiving money and feeling good about receiving money also requires you to feel good about spending money, because you can't ask people to spend money on your services and then feel bad about you spending money in return. So that was something I even experienced with the investment in myself, was that really helped me remove the fears of setting my pricing or asking people to invest with me, because I don't ever ask any one client to invest more with me than I've invested in myself. And I don't ever ask clients to do anything I haven't been willing to do. So it really set me up to, one, be more empowered in that way. But then also, I really came to see that money doesn't run out when you spend it. It's not ever wasted. It's not something that goes away. Money circulates. And so embracing the circulation of money also helped me really see how it can be in service. Not can be, it is in service to spend, to give, to receive money, and to be part of that circulation. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Alex. So it's time. Oh, absolutely. It's time. Let's dive into the lightning round and see what we can get through. First question is, what is the best advice you've ever received? And who gave it to you?
What a powerful question to start with. We've already talked about investing in yourself. So although that was really good advice, but I would say the best advice I ever received was to stop battling the parts of myself that I wanted to change, because something I had a real pattern in for a long time was beating myself up. And when my fear would arise, when my self-doubt would arise, I'd get mad, be like, why am I doubting myself? Why can't I just trust myself? Or, I should be past this by now. And when I learned to shift away from battling that and embracing and accepting all of myself, that was actually the pathway through it. So I know this might be a little deeper for a lightning round question on advice. Yeah, but I have to say that really has to be some of the best advice I've ever gotten, because learning how to embrace myself and not fight with myself actually has transformed my relationship with myself, my self-confidence, and my faith, truly.
If you could put a quote on a billboard for everyone to read, what would it say?
So this is not my original quote, but I would say, all of you is welcome here.
You're a coach, so you ask a lot of questions, and I'm just curious, do you have a favorite question or two that you always ask, whether it's a client or even if you're meeting with a mentor or a coach of your own? What are one or two?
Yeah, I ask almost every client I work with this question at some point, which is, if you knew that you couldn't get it wrong, if you knew you couldn't screw it up, what would you do? You asked for one or two questions?
Yeah. I didn't know if you had another. I was just waiting.
So another question I ask that ties into our earlier conversation, often with clients, is, if you were valuing yourself and your vision as a top priority, what would you start doing differently today?
Wow.
They get really great responses too.
Yeah, I'm going to have to journal on both of those. If you could go back and have coffee with yourself at any age, it doesn't have to be 20, that's the classic question, but any age, and have coffee with yourself and give yourself advice that you'd actually listen to, what age would that be and what would you tell that?
So I would meet with 12 or 13-year-old Alex. She probably wouldn't have drank coffee with me, but I would have taken her to get a Mountain Dew or something and would have shared with her that it's really okay to be curious. It's really okay to explore, to be creative, and to use your imagination.
What's something that you've done that you think everyone should experience before they die?
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, I'm hesitating because I have an answer, but I'm thinking we already talked about this so much, but let me go ahead and share the truthful answer. Yeah, I would say...
Let's go.
I would say working with a mentor or a coach who is going to help you remember who you really are and who you were made to be, not who everyone else says you should be.
So good. So Alex, as we close our conversation today, is there anything else you want to leave leaders with today?
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone that, from my experience, one of the greatest things you can do to be in highest service to those around you is to cultivate that trust with yourself and coming to know who you really are.
That's so good. And I just want to remind everyone, we'll include links in the show notes on how to connect with Alex. If this piqued your interest or you connected with her, I highly encourage you to reach out. She can add massive quantum value to your life. So thank you, Alex. This was so much fun. And I look forward to continue to watch you grow and make a difference in the world.
Thank you, Doug. So appreciate you having me.
Well, hey, leader, thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Alex. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. You can find ways to connect with her and links to everything that we discussed in the show notes at l3leadership.org/335. And leaders, always, I want to challenge you that if you want to 10x your growth this year, then you need to either launch or join an L3 Leadership Mastermind Group. Mastermind groups have been the greatest source of growth in my life over the last 7 years. And if you don't know what they are, they're just simply groups of 6 to 12 leaders that meet together on a consistent basis for at least 1 year in order to help each other grow, hold each other accountable, and to do life together. If If you're interested in learning more about launching or joining a group, go to l3leadership.org/masterminds. And as always, I like to end every episode with a quote, and today I'll quote Craig Groeschel, who said this. He said, "A growing leader is in a constant place of discomfort." So true. Well, leader, I hope this episode encouraged you. Know that Laura and I love you. We believe in you, and I say it every episode, but keep leading. Don't quit. The world desperately needs your leadership. We'll talk to you next episode.